Very nice.
Yeah, I think that brings us to our last segment. Um, this is basically this segment is aimed at understanding, since you were one of those people who got into operations and you really had no one to look forward to or look up to who would teach you everything, right? Because you were the leader of your own organization. There's no senior to you who will tell you and show you the rails. This is how you do operations, right? So how is it that you went about teaching yourself how to be an exceptional operations leader? Like, were there any particular materials you referred to? Were there any people who you followed? Were there any principles you followed? Anything that helped you get to this point of success as an ops leader?
Yeah, and what do you also look at today, right? Since Aniket, we know that you're a fairly active person. You spend a lot of time with different people. You attend different sessions. You read a lot. So, would be really helpful for people to understand sort of your knowledge base, right? How you've accumulated that beyond, say, the experience of having built Bizongo yourself, which is, of course, undoubtedly the biggest contributor. But not everyone else is building Bizongo, so they will have to probably gain that knowledge from somewhere else. This session is a great example. But otherwise, what do you read? Who do you follow? What would you recommend? Our community to also sort of look at. And I think that's the last piece that we'd like to ask you about.
No, absolutely, Rohit. I think a great point. Yeah, I think in terms of who do I follow, I would say that see, I have always see, I don't know how to put it forward. I have these two very different facets, and that which works for me. I don't know if it works for the for others or not. I have two things that is very dear to me. So I am a very purpose driven, value oriented person, and how I get that source of inspiration is obviously, I actually read about mythology quite a lot. I love reading about Hindu mythology, and I think that's one of my biggest inspirations, because I always realize that one thing. I don't know. It strikes me quite a lot that we barely know what has happened to us in the last 100 years. How would we know what has happened in the last 100,000 years? So, the 50,000, 100,000 years of human consciousness has developed to this extent, and there are reasons certain things are the way they are. So, I try to get a grasp of that, and I think that makes me feel really good at times. So, that is one very, very important aspect. And the other side is very, very, I guess, slightly more disruptive in nature. And that I try to get by talking to people I feel will be able to tell me things that I don't know. I think I do that a lot by choice. And I think that is where my ability to kind of, because there have been many cases where now it is obviously happening much less, because that is how the social construct is. But when we were young and I had just started off, there are many cases when I should go and ask people things, and they used to literally, not want me in the room. And these are very obvious things that we all need to go through. We need to understand that, right? And that shouldn't be a deterrent. We shouldn't allow ourselves to feel demoralized because someone else said that we are not good enough. Because what do they know, right? So I think no one knows what struggles we go through individually and what are the ups and downs that we face. So, if when that is the case, I think the other side of things I like to look forward to is really, how do people who are like really oriented around having high level of impact for the world in a certain sense, how do they think, right? And I think that has kind of helped me a lot, because few days back, Rohit, I was telling you, if you remember, I met with Peter Diamandis, who is running Singularity and all of several disruptive ventures, and he, in fact, at his summit last year uh, uh, in fact, this year in March, he had Elon Musk as one of the main speakers at his summit. So I went to meet him in Hyderabad, and I was able to kind of understand his thoughts on how the next 10 years are going to look like. So I realized that the way these people think is not really that they have to be compulsorily right. They don't try to make that a point, but there is immense amount of and what Peter calls it as concept of abundance and not fear and scarcity. So his point of view is that, okay, if the soil is not yielding me enough number of crops, I'll go towards vertical farming. I'll find a better way to do it, because if in vertical farming I will be able to generate better yield, better sunlight will come. He's saying that human beings are so adaptive that if something doesn't work, they'll find a better way. and and that's a concept of abundance versus scarcity and fear. And his point is that since the world thrives on gossip around fear and negative news, AI taking away jobs is our favorite pastime and favorite thing to talk about. But unfortunately, the reality is that within this frame of the next 10 years, very, very disruptive companies are actually going to come and go. So I think, whatever said and done, such conversation allows me to dream at times. I think that is very important, because if you stop dreaming, then why are you building, or what are you even building? I mean, your life's aspirations go away. So I think if you ask me what am I following, I essentially either try to look at very disruptive things, which inspire me to say that, okay, I would have thought of this as a problem, but someone is really saying that human beings are very adaptive, and they have an abundance mindset, and somehow they'll be able to get things done. So yeah, so for example, Peter was telling me about this asteroid, and Musk apparently wants to mine that, and it has a cumulative value of 100,000 quadrillion dollars. I mean, I don't even know what that even means, right? So apparently the amount of platinum, palladium, etc., all of the metals and elements on that is valued at that extent, and that is what Musk wants to do in the future. So long story short, I mean, either and you shouldn't feel either it's utopian or dystopian. That's not the point. The point is that it's an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity to think that even if out of these 10 things, 5 things come true, then those 5 things are going to be movers and shakers. And even if you are even a one tiny drop in that, in the pie of those 5 things, literally you can tell your grandchildren that you contributed towards making a better world. How about better? How can you do better than that, literally, right? So that's one thing that inspires me, and the other I told you is I think Hindu mythology as a whole. I feel very big. That's why you see the we put on Ganesh Chaturthi on things like that.
I think we have uncovered a lot of fascinating stuff, a lot of things to take away. I think the biggest takeaway for me from this session is basically ops, handling ops the Aniket, which I would like to describe as, first of all, being passionate about whatever you want to do, and then bringing that passion and that persuasion into understanding the frameworks of the business. And the last part of that is just being curious and asking questions till the time you get all the answers that you need. I think that's something that helps you overcome any kind of situation that you can come across. And throughout your experiences, you've told us that you learned about the importance of finance, and how to plan it, how to effectively go about it, how to care for the cash flows that we have. Also, on the strategy part of things, understanding your customer is probably one of the biggest things you should worry about when you're working on strategy. Everything else comes second. If you know your business in and out, if you know your customers in and out, you can easily tell your investors why they should invest in.
Hey folks, so I think we are out of time, and thank you so much, Aniket, for spending almost 90 minutes with us on a Sunday afternoon. And it's a rare opportunity that the folks here in the community, ourselves included, had to speak to you and to hear you at your most candid and at times, as you said, brutally honest as well. And we'd love to have you back for another session with other folks on the same or on a different topic. And
Absolutely.
I think it'll be just phenomenal, right, to keep engaging with you and to keep doing this. Thank you so much for supporting us. Thank you everyone for being here on this call and taking out the time. Really, really appreciate it.